Actualization is the highest level of psychological development and the complete realization of one's full potential.
In this podcast, we talk about productivity, health, and mindset to help you reach your full potential and actually actualize.
I'm Paige.
I'm Sydney.
Let's get to it.
One that is a lot harder to share about is imposter syndrome in relationships. And I'm talking like friendships and like romantic relationships. You know, like I feel like for the longest time, even with Patrick, I would be feeling in my head like one of these days he's just going to realize that like I'm not the person he thought that I was and we're going to break up. Like that's what's going to happen. And like it sounds so silly to say out loud, but it's true, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that has ever felt that way. And you have to go back to what are the facts? He would not be with you if he didn't want to be. Like, that's silly. And he said that. Because don't think I didn't pull one of those, why do you even want to be with me? I feel like I'm still doing it. Why do you even want to marry me? Sydney, what, you know, like, and I can recognize that it's silly now. Like, I have overcome it a little bit, but it still is there, and it's there, like, with other things, too, like, with friendships. Like, I'd be like, you know, does this person even want to be friends with me? Like, why is this person even friends with me? Or, like, you know, like, if I didn't get a text back from someone, like, I would take it personally and be like, wow, well, they probably just don't want to hang out with me anymore. You know, when it's, like, Paige and she's probably just, you know, like, playing with her kids or something. It's, like, that insecurity that creeps in. Well, you're actually not that close with people. But it is a real thing, and it's still something that I have to deal with.
I get really bad imposter syndrome when I'm, like, talking, like, sharing my ideas. I get really insecure when, like, even right now as I'm talking, in my head, I'm thinking, does Sydney think that I'm stupid? Like, is what I'm saying, does it make sense? Or does she think that I have no idea what I'm talking about and I should stop talking because I'm going the wrong way in this podcast? I think that often as I'm talking in this podcast. Yeah.
I didn't even
lots
know
of episodes,
that.
I'm always thinking that I'm like, oh, does Sydney like what I'm saying? I hope she likes what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I do that. Especially if I'm talking about something that I've learned or I'm excited about. I just get so much self-doubt, like, do I really know what I'm talking about? I don't think you would really think that, because I kind of perfected, like, I don't care what anyone says, but I get really insecure.
Well, and I think that is kind of the scary thing, or why imposter syndrome is so effective, or I don't know if that's the right word, but like, because people get really good at masking it. Yeah. And because you don't want anyone to find out that you're feeling that way. Or, you know, you're doing your best to, like, be the perfectionist and make it look like you know what you're doing. But then you're actually feeling that on the inside. And I was actually listening to a podcast the other day with Brene Brown, and she was talking about shame. And that kind of made me think of a lot of times with imposter syndrome, what we're feeling is shame, because you know, we feel like we're not good at something, or feel like we're, you know, living a lie, or people are going to find us out, you know. And she said that the only way that shame exists is in isolation, and it will just keep growing the more that you silence it and don't acknowledge it, don't share with anyone. But the second that you start talking about it, empathy is the antidote. So as soon as you share with someone, they're probably going to show some empathy for you, and that shame starts to go away. And so that's the only way that we can get past these feelings all the self-doubt and all of it is by sharing and talking to people about it. And so that's what we're doing.
Yes. Was that her verbiage, or did you make that up just now?
That was her.
Empathy is the antidote.
Yes.
That's why we're sharing.
Yeah. because even though it was really difficult for us to just share, I kind of want to just delete this whole podcast.
I know, like, are we gonna
don't post this? But because it is really hard to share about. But then the second that you hear that somebody else also felt that way or also feels that way in maybe a different area, then it's so validating that, oh my God, I'm not the only one that feels this way.
Right. Because it's not just you. And for even smaller things, we were both struggling this past week, feeling like, man, we have this podcast where we're
talking about being productive and getting things done, and yet I'm not able to get my wedding tasks done. And, you know, like, and then I was feeling really bad about it. And then I was like, well, who am I to even get on this podcast and tell people about how to be productive when I can't even get my own stuff done?
Mm-hmm. Same here. You go grocery shopping. I got so busy with work and, you know, stacking up work because I didn't time block how I should have, that then I started missing workouts. And then last week. So this week I'm really gonna get back on track.
But then we both talked to each other about it, and then, you know, I was like, Paige, that's called a deload week when you take up workouts. So just, you know, calm down. It's okay. It's okay to not have it all working out all the time, because we are human. Yes. We're not perfect. We might know what works, but that doesn't mean that we always do it.
Bam. Yeah.
But the good thing is then we know how to get back to it. You know, like, okay, let me go back to time blocking your week. You know, let me go back to how I need to time block my wedding task. What do I, like Paige she asked me, she was like, okay, what are the things you're needing to do? Why are you not able to do them? Like, just talking through it and trying to, you know, figure out what the problem is so we can get past it. If we just kept sitting in those feelings of like, wow, well, maybe we shouldn't even be doing a podcast on productivity if we can't even get our own lives together. And then who knows if we would have just not talked to each other about it and just both went in, sat in that alone in pluralistic ignorance.
Yes.
Then we could have just stopped recording the podcast.
You know, you always find excuses. You always find reasons not to. And so if that's planting the seed to start doing that. But because we talked, we were like, no, we're not imposters because we know what to do. Let's fix this. This is what we're going to do. And
this is real. And so we wanted to share about it, because it doesn't, just because we are talking about these things doesn't mean that we are perfect at them.
So we talked a lot about having a support system and how great that is for us. And it really, really, really is, guys. If you don't have someone that you can just bounce your ideas off of, your struggles off of, things
and be vulnerable with.
Yes. We highly recommend that you join our Facebook group that we have just started. We will be there to offer encouragement and cheer you on.
It'll be a safe space where you can, you know, post vulnerable things and know that people are going to be there to build you up.
And that's what everyone needs. Everyone needs just that boost sometime, and just being around positive people, like-minded, who just want to live a good life and be the best they can be.
Yeah. And that aren't going to, you know, make you feel bad about any of these things that you might be experiencing, because we're all human and we're going to have imperfections. That's normal.
It is so normal.
So before we sign off, we have 3 action steps for you, because we like to give you action steps at the end. So it's great to just listen, but, you know, we got to take action. So when you're having to address the imposter syndrome, because hopefully you're not a narcissist and you do experience this in some way. 1, acknowledge it, like recognize that you're having it. So think about, are you feeling self-doubt in any area of your life? And just being able to name it and recognize it's the first step. Step 2, look for evidence. And not evidence that is proving you right that you are a fraud. Don't look for negative evidence. Look for, because there is evidence there that you do belong. Like, there is evidence you can find positive evidence. You have to look for it.
And if you're negative, you're going to find negative things.
Exactly. Yes. So you have to, and so sometimes you might need help finding positive evidence, but it is there if you look for it. And stick to the facts.
Because there's tons of facts that prove why you're awesome at what you're doing.
Lastly, find someone to talk to about it, because that is the only way to really squash it, is to share about it, share how you're feeling. And if you don't have someone that you feel comfortable with sharing that with, then that's why we are opening up a community where you can have that safe space.
So head on over to that Facebook group and join us, and we will tell you why you're awesome.
Yes.
All right, guys, thanks for being vulnerable with us and listening. And if you've made it this far, please go ahead and like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we highly encourage you to go check out our video on YouTube.
And check out the comments, because people are all on there saying, yes, they have felt this way too.
Yes. All right, guys. Until next time.